The Baltimore Ravens have found their next star in cornerback Nate Wiggins. Find out what year two in Zach Orr's defense means for this rising star in the National Football League right here, right now on Ravens Digest. Welcome to the show. For those of you who are new here, my name is Bryce Parker, and I'm going to be your host today for Ravens Digest. So before we get started, make sure that you like, comment, but most importantly, make sure that you're subscribed to our YouTube channel. When can you say that you're going to be the first 50 subscribers to a YouTube channel that covers your favorite football team, from trade rumors to updates to highlights? We got it all here, and we're going to give you everything you need going forward about the Baltimore Ravens. So, without further ado, let's get it on. So, Nate Wiggins, he's going into year two as a starter for the Ravens. Last year, he started 15 games. He missed two, one because of illness, one because of a neck sprain, but he did start 15 games for the Baltimore Ravens. He had a solid season. He earned the starting cornerback position in Zach Orr's defense, and he will retain that position into this next season. And the Baltimore. So, why are we here today? That's because the Baltimore Ravens released an article from and one of their writers has said that this is going to be a breakout season for the second-year cornerback out of Clemson. He stepped up as a playmaker. He guarded many other teams' number one receivers, from Lamar Chase. He even he covered CeeDee Lamb. He covered guys like Van Jefferson for Pittsburgh Steelers, who was one of their big receivers when George Pickens was out. And especially when you have a conference full of dynamic receivers. Just look at Cincinnati. They have Jamar Chase and they have T. Higgins by themselves. You are going to need a guy who's comfortable playing man coverage. You're going to need a guy who's comfortable taking a significant amount of snaps. And Nate Wiggins, in his first year, he was a rookie, gave a lot of great play, put a lot of good things on film. And most importantly, he had that confidence. That's the one main thing you're going to look at in cornerbacks, whether it's year 1, year 15, whether they're playing in the boundary, whether they're playing in the short side of the field, or whether they're playing a slot. You need a guy who has the confidence to go toe-to-toe with somebody and say, I'm shutting down this person for the entire game. And Nate Wiggins is a guy that I believe will have a breakout season and could very possibly become the next best cornerback, not just for the Baltimore Ravens, but in the National Football League. So, what makes Nate Wiggins special? First thing that jumps off, speed. This is a guy who has 4.2 speed. When you have a conference, when you have a league that is filled with these big, fast, strong receivers, you need a guy who sometimes when you're playing man coverage, that when the ball's not going your way, or when a receiver is running past you, or you might guess wrong on a route, you need a guy who has elite makeup speed, and this is a guy who has it. But also patience. You hardly ever see Nate Wiggins getting out of position. He's not a guy that's jumping double moves. He's not a guy who's lazy with his eyes and his feet. He's playing these masterful route runners the right way and in a manner that he's not going to get lost and he's not going to be out of position. And then moving on, when you're not a guy who's getting out of position, you still have to be able to make a play on the ball. And Nate Wiggins is a guy who can make plays on the ball. He had 13 pass breakups this past season in his rookie year. So this is a guy that plays the ball well. He's patient. He's good with his hands. He's not getting a lot of penalties too, which we see in this National Football League. This is a league that's catered to offense. It's catered to penalties, offensive OPIs. Aaron Rodgers has been famous. He's made his bread and butter off of being able to capitalize off of broken plays, off of penalties. This is a guy who can have on the field, especially when you're playing a lot of man coverage, that he can stay on the field, that he can guard guys in man, and that he's not going to be a defensive liability. And also the length. He's 6'1", very long arms, rangy defensive back who can make plays in space. Nate Wiggins, these are his physical tools and his traits that you can't really teach these traits. You can't teach 4.2 speed. So this is a guy who brings a lot to the table from a physical standpoint. Now, why is he going to be a breakout corner in year 2? It's because he can hold his own as a playmaker. He's not a guy that you're going to have to shade over safeties too much. He's not going to be a guy that you're going to need to have a linebacker chip, or you're going to have to bracket or run certain coverages with him. No, this is a guy who can do it all. And like I said, he's a playmaker, which will allow the other playmakers on this Baltimore team to shine. You have so many great playmakers in this Baltimore back end on their defense. You have Kyle Hamilton, the best safety in the league. Marlon Humphrey's been doing a great long time. Ardarius Washington rising as a safety. You have Malachi Starks, who I think might be one of the best safeties in the NFL draft, who you just drafted this past year, who's going to just add to the versatility of this defense. You will allow all of these players to not only be able to feed off each other of what they do individually, but they're going to be able to come together and make a solid defensive unit that ended 2024 as one of the best against the pass. Now, he had great production in 2024. He started most of the games. That experience is going to give him an edge. It's going to give him the confidence he needs to make the leap from year one to year two. And then also just being year two in a new defense, style-wise, you're going to have the confidence to know the system, to play the system well, to not have to think so much. And you're going to be able to elevate the play of this elite DB room that only got better in the offseason. Whether it was through free agency, whether it was through the draft, this team got better in every single aspect. And you can actually check out our last video on why this team got so much better in the offseason. So what do the stats have to say for it? In 2024, he had 33 total tackles. 25 of those tackles were solo tackles. 8 were assisted. He had 1 forced fumble. Which was a forced fumble actually when he was guarding CeeDee Lamb, who he had 51% of the shared responsibility for him in that game. So you have a forced fumble on one of the best receivers in the National Football League, a rising star, a guy who is a 1,000+ yard guy every year. You were able to have a good showing against him. He had an interception against the division rival Cleveland Browns, which was actually a pick 6. Like I said earlier, he had 13 pass defense. And he only allowed 1 touchdown. For a rookie, you see a lot of the times these guys, they panic, they get rattled. No, all season, 1 touchdown. I will put my money down on that every single time if I can draft a guy in their first season who can put up that type of production. He was 2nd in target separation the past year, 4th in passer rating allowed, 6th in catch rate allowed, and he was 7th in coverage rating. Again, this is a rookie, guys. And so let's get into some of these matchups that we saw him take on. Again, he took on some of the true number 1 receivers in the National Football League, and he fared very well. He held Jamar Chase to 2 catches for 12 yards. He held A.J. Brown to 2 catches for 28 yards. He held Malik Neighbors, a breakout rookie for the New York Giants, who is a franchise guy already, but is going to be possibly on a Hall of Fame track. 3 catches, 47 yards just this past season, and what Nate Wiggins has been able to do. So again, this is a guy who has the confidence to go against number 1s and say, I'm going to follow you around the field. I'm going to play you for 60 minutes of football. It's going to be me and you, and he has the confidence that you're going to want in a star defensive back that's going to take that target share and is going to give you plus production. Now, obviously, it was his first year last year, so there's going to be things to work on. So he's 6'1", 185. So he has a smaller frame. If he's going to, keep playing with these more physical receivers, he's going to follow these guys like a T. Higgins who has massive size, like a DK Metcalf who just got traded to the Pittsburgh Steelers who has massive size. He's going to have to put on some weight, which was going to be able to help him with his tackling ability. Now, he had 30-plus tackles in this past season, so he does have a nose for the football. He's not scared to come up and make a hit, but you see some of these corners, like think of a Jalen Ramsey who is known for his physical play. If Nate Wiggins can add that to his style of play and to his repertoire and be a guy who can play more in the boundary, and then that way you can mix it up with him and Marlon Humphrey, I feel like you're going to have you actually already have probably the best back end in the National Football League, but the most versatile. I mean, you already have Swiss Army knife personified in Kyle Hamilton. You have Malachi Starks, who you drafted, who is just as much of a Swiss Army knife, just in a different way to feed off each other. You have Marlon Humphrey, who comes in and plays in the slot as well. You drafted Robert Lagerbeam, who can come in and add depth at cornerback. If I'm Zach Orr, I'm jumping for joy because I have so many DBs on this team who can come in and make a play from every single level, from the line of scrimmage to linebacker depth to safety depth. You have guys who can move around everywhere, who can play any type of receiver, especially as receivers are getting better, especially as offensive coordinators are getting more creative. This is a guy who's going to be a piece that will just elevate your entire football team. Also, he had his worst showing against CeeDee Lamb. Now, that was the game where he did have the forced fumble, but on 4 out of 5 targets, he did allow 82 yards. So, giving up some yards to one of the premier receivers in the National Football League. But that's a learning lesson. Rookies are going to have their hiccups. But one thing that was good in that showing was, again, the forced fumble where he didn't give up on the play. He allowed the catch. CeeDee did get a little bit of yards, but Nate Wiggins, he played through the whistle. And, again, that's the confidence that you're going to want from any DB that you have on your team. And so, yes, he has those things to work on, but they're not big glaring issues that are problems. Like, he's not a person that another team is going to be able to look at him and target and go after the whole game. No, Nate Wiggins has the ability to be a big player in the National Football League, but also be a dog, just a guy who you can just ask him, just shut him down. And Nate Wiggins can be that guy. And so if he stays healthy, I think if he puts on a little bit more weight, he can be a true perennial Pro Bowler like you're seeing with Kyle Hamilton, who is basically just a lock for best safety every single year. So what this means for the big picture of the Baltimore Ravens. So the Ravens, we made a video, my last video talked about how were the favorite to win in the AFC North already going into the season. They won the AFC North last season. All they did was get better in the offseason. And, and now you're going to next season where you're having rookie mini camp, looking forward to training camp. This is a team who's not only just the favorite in the NFC North, but they probably are the most complete team the AFC North. They're probably the most complete team within the AFC. Some people are picking them as the favorite to win this, to go to the Super Bowl out of the AFC and even win it. And so if you're going to have blue chip guys like Nate Wiggins who can show up every single day and you don't have to worry about them, and who adds to the larger defensive unit that Zach.Our and GM Eric DeCosta have been able to put together, it's going to be a monster season for this defense if they can play the way they played in the end half of the season into the playoffs rather than how they played in the first part of the season where you saw some of those growing pains with guys who had left like Patrick Queen. You get this unit back for another season. You get Zach.Our as the defensive coordinator for another season. Remember, last year was his first year. So I think some of those early kind of hiccups you had on defense where they were giving up a lot of passing yards was simply because of the fact that they were learning a new system. Again, you see this with quarterbacks all the time who go through different coordinators. Even think about Lamar, who is a guy who he looked better this season in the new offense than he did in the first season with Todd Monken. You're going to see the same thing with Zach.Our. They're going to hit the ground running. And what a better way to hit the ground running with guys who can make plays. Again, you got with Kyle Hamilton, Marlon Humphrey, he's going to be there. And then a guy like Nate Wiggins coming back for his second season, who had a great rookie season. Again, it's going to be scary for anybody who has the Baltimore Ravens on their schedule this upcoming season. I believe that with the core that they put together, they can be the best defensive unit possibly in football, especially with the pass rusher help that they had within the NFL draft this past draft, and with the moves that they've been able to make during the offseason. So watch out for the Baltimore Ravens because they are coming and they are fearless and they have something to prove with them losing in the divisional round last year when a lot of people had them as the Super Bowl favorites in the Super Bowl over any team, not just in the AFC, but also whoever was going to come out, not in the AFC, but also who was ever going to come out in the NFC. So, again, thank you so much for joining us today. Again, Nate Wiggins, the next star on this defense for the Baltimore Ravens. If you want any more updates or if you want content, you have questions about the Baltimore Ravens, anything that you want us as a Ravens Digest team to answer, make sure that you are commenting, engaging with the content, but also make sure that you're subscribed to the channel. Again, you never know when you're going to get the chance to be the first 50 subscribers of a channel that's covering everything you need to know about your favorite NFL team. So thank you so much for joining us today. Tell me in the comments what you think about Nate Wiggins, what stats you think he's going to be able to put up in year 2 in 2025, going to the second season. Also with the second season of Zach.Our, how do you think this defense is going to change? Let me know what you want to know, and we'll be able to deliver you that content. So as always, thank you so much for joining us. Hey, and go Flock.